Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to End of the Veil. I'm Rachel. Great to have you here. So, we've had a lot going on energetically. All summer, really. Most especially since, I think, May. It started getting more and more lively. You know, before we did the series on Project Light, and that seemed to have begun in February. I feel that they gave it closure or completed task, is what I hear Anku saying, in July. Give me just a moment. We'll bring him in to help. Hello, friend. I think he's taking the seat to my right today. So, for myself, I have had a few weeks of really processing a lot of what I've been feeling, realizing that some of it is my own residual tidbits of things to sweep out of my own personal room, my own personal self. Other portions of it have been very much about, it feels much more collective. And the last stage of that really represented itself as also being earth energy, wherein I began feeling, it felt like it graduated from me to the collective of man into something much bigger, which is what I'm calling earth energy. In that, I found that there's a distinct persona to the Earth Mother. I've always felt the Earth. I've always resonated and have been able to sense change through what I call tremors sometimes, where just standing, you can feel that vibration when she's getting ready to show herself or present. Sometimes weather, sometimes shifts in consciousness. And it comes up in a variety of ways. As an intuitive empath, it's sometimes difficult for me to explain how I get a lot of the downloads that I do. In fact, I don't know if I could give word to the way that they present themselves to me. I just know that I've been steadily working at it and with it for decades now. And it's gotten to where I guess I don't really ask. I just know the difference between. I've had several of you reaching out and asking what in the world is going on, because I'm feeling intense levels of sometimes anger, sometimes sadness, overwhelming levels of some very primal energies. So what I would like to do today is discuss some of that. If Anku is willing to help, I would appreciate it. He said always. And we'll see where it goes. It may or may not resonate for all of you. Everybody's at different places in their own process, and it's important that we honor that. in ourselves and with each other. So if it doesn't resonate, it's okay. Okay. I feel him immediately saying he's so glad to be back with us. He's had a period of time wherein he hasn't really been able to communicate in the ways that he did just prior. I hear time out. And I also sense him stating that it's been very important that we have time to work with the new energies that are presenting themselves without his interruption. Is that correct, friend? Okay. I sense him saying it would be great to be able to give you all the shortcuts, but that would disempower you as a species. I'm sorry, I was just listening for a moment. And I understand, coming from me, I understand sometimes this is a little slow, a little methodical. I appreciate your patience, but it's more important to me that I have it correct than to be fast and miss something important. So where to begin, Anku? Where to begin? Right now, he's showing me at the end of May, I believe he's saying the 23rd, there was a very distinct layering of 5D, 5-dimensional energy that came down onto our 3D, if you will. And he spoke of this before, but again, he shows that it's sort of sandwiched. The 4D, the time space, to where that became I hear him saying easier to traverse. And in that, he shows me something that looks like a cone or a tunnel between the 3 and the 5, and the tunnel part is in this 4D. So it's the sense that time and space and the things that belong to the 4D are easily stepped through. But it almost has a sense, of being like a vacuum, this tunnel. And he said it's very much a portal. And that now he mentions the Lion's Gate. that has just opened. And it's very connected to the star of Sirius. But it's acting more like it's not just a gateway, but it's acting more like, if you will, a magnifying glass. So for the individual, I feel like he's saying whatever your residing energy is, it seems to magnify that. If you are outgoing, it gives me the sense that you would have more activity. If you are more introverted, it gives me the opposite, in that you may find yourself in even deeper levels of introspection, observation. So it seems to be very dependent. If we have embraced the higher vibrational aspects of who we are to the best of our ability, that also feels like it's being magnified. And simultaneously, if we're still driven by fear or still driven by more limiting energies, then we may experience certain levels of limitation that perhaps are unexpected, but it feels like this is going to pass soon. And he also gives me the sense that everything's changing very quickly. The Earth, he's saying every 26,000 years, approximately, has a shift. The difference is that this time, we as light vessels are very much an active part of that shift in ways that we haven't been before. And he's saying it's very important that we reconnect with, he says, the mother, and I believe he's referring to the earth. And remember our connection to her. In our part of nature, he's saying the mitochondrial DNA, the true mother in that is the earth. That is our connection. That she is a wellspring of life. That we are an animal, truly, but one that has voice and a means of communicating differently. It's not, I don't get the sense of better or worse, but differently with the divine through that spark that lives within us. He said, yet continually, and I feel him, yet continually you insist on on keeping yourself separate. I feel him saying, how many times have you seen that flower or felt the rain? I feel rain. Or have just looked at everything around you as not being you. He said, there is not one that has not been guilty of this. And I see him doing this as though he understands. He feels a little bit sad, a little bit frustrated, and then he gives me that repeatedly. We have been spoken to by the earth, warned, embraced, and much like a mother, sometimes very stern and sometimes just very compassionate, understanding why we are the way we are, yet not quite willing to accept our excuses for much longer. Some of this great overwhelm of emotion that we've been working with and through is being drawn up out of the memory of the earth. Every conflict, every plague, every disease, he said she has felt them all. The anger, the sorrow, grief, which seems to be separate. She has felt all of it and has been holding all of it until, to the best of her ability, until we have been willing and able, until we have been strong enough to take little by little to pull that up through us as light bodies, to process as much as we are individually capable of. Sorry, I was just feeling a little more than I could talk through for a moment. For us to be able to pull it up, out, and through in order that it can be returned to the Creator to be transformed into something much better. But that through our DNA, through our cellular memory, we hold these things. He said, so many of you are so angry and so sad. And he said, and if you look closely, there's a very small difference between the two. The anger He said, we understand the choice because we've been lied to at times in our own evolution. And we had to also choose whether to continue I feel him saying whether to continue to assist man. There was a point in time where it feels like it was a strong choice. But in their communication with the mother, with nature, it was given to them where we as a species were intended to go, to evolve into. And I feel that they chose to assist. And with there being a strong period of time where they were only perceived to be the monsters, if you will, the lack of understanding on man's part for their true heart, he said it was difficult. It was difficult for a while. But then you began to hear, and you began to see, and you began to understand that you were not all. You were not all that was created to assist the earth. And you began to open your hearts and enable us to show you more. And we understood because we too have suffered losses. For the greater good. And while it would have been easier to have resided in anger, he said, my ancestors set a course, made a choice to assist in what was coming for the earth because we loved her so. She is our mother also. It is our ultimate link. So there's he said we are the same. You don't see it. You don't know. We are the same. We share the one heart. Not only the universal heart, but the heart of the earth that pulsates in resonance with the universal heart and your own heartbeat. And I'm frowning because I feel him trying to think of what he can say. feel him searching for what he can say to convince you. He said, we were you. Beautiful people once. And much like what is going on in your world today, with the mutations of genetics, attempting, thinking that they're going to have another slave race. He's shaking his head. He said, they are so afraid of how powerful you are as you are. He said, but you have to stand in that power, and you have to be the one to understand that the divine and the earth mother are just like your head and your feet, and you are the core between, and all of that transpires through you. He said, we understand, but you need to understand how much more you are. That the anger that every culture on the face of this planet feels. And he said, and each culture is entitled to that for a number of reasons, a number of events. He said, but if you were to look at it closer, you would see that you're not angry with each other. You're all a species. You're all each other. You're not angry with your brother, with your neighbor, with a different upbringing. Your hearts beat the same. Your blood flows the same. He said, what you're angry about, look closer. Don't look at the obvious. What you're angry about is that they severed your connection. Each culture has had their connection with the Great Mother and the Divine severed. And the most inherent part of who you are knows that there's been something missing, that there's been more. The biggest part of who you are knows what's been a lie. And I feel him saying that the earth is reaching for us, as if she's saying, children. She's reaching and wanting to embrace no differently than she does the lily of the field or a bird or any other animal. She's wanting to embrace us, inasmuch as she knows she's our mother. But repeatedly we have turned our back on her and have refused her. He said the same with the Father. But you've spent more time chasing him. Traditionally, he was an aspect in that divine masculine, if you will, that even the organizations that were created maintained and held on to. But what was stolen from you through your original tribal being, and through your original foundations was your connection to the mother. And all of this was what began to create the sense of abandonment, the sense of worthlessness, you could not freely, he's saying you could not easily hold your ceremonies or allow nature to nurture you as it once did, else you would have been made a martyr. Some of you were burned at crosses in some of your experiences, or on stakes. Some of you were stoned, chastised, beaten. He said, the list goes on, shall I continue? And inasmuch as many of you were healers, natural healers, and knew, because you had that communication with nature, knew how to treat, knew how to help, only to be punished, in most cases killed, for trying to be of assistance, no more, no less. So your anger, it's misguided, he said. Your anger is misguided because you're blaming the wrong things. For every culture, they have been separated from their tribe. They have been separated from their teachings and from their ceremony, from their dance, from their ability to communicate and anticipate a response from the earth in their requests. Once, he said, once when you hunted or gathered, you did it for the group. When you told a story, it was for the group. Teaching through the power of your history and through what you knew. And all of that was taken from you. Your original languages, your original teachings, to where it's just an echo now in the Akash for you. But he says the earth would revitalize, wants to bring these things up for us as a species, in order that we can reconnect and heal from the many losses. He said, many of you are spiritual warriors, and you have repeatedly tried to come in at different times to expunge what was holding man back, to try to re-bridge the gap. He said many of you have grown tired of your losses, tired of the fight. But I feel him making a request not to quit just yet, because he says you are so close. And in that, they would choose to walk with us, to teach us, to help us remember more. To remember who not only we are, but they are. And that they are our past and lead us and bring us also into our future. But that all time is this moment. And until we learn how to utilize this moment and process out what does not serve us anymore, to redirect these same energies. Anger has a purpose, he said. It's to protect. It's normally a reaction when something we love is at risk. And it's become a natural response, natural reaction when we feel threatened. He said, right now there's a lot of anger in the world because you see where they are trying to threaten you again. And it masks an even deeper emotion of sorrow, which is not quite the same as grief. Very close. But it's in the sorrow, it is for what you have lost. The sorrow is, and the anger are for what you have lost. But I feel him saying, I am here to tell you that it still exists. It is not gone. But it needs your active participation. It needs your willingness to reunite with the mother, to reunite with the earth, to allow her to be the mother. He said, some of you, it's almost a foreign word. For some of you, it's unconditional love is difficult to grasp. But she works very much in unison with the Creator and the universe in taking care of us. And I feel that it is unconditional. We are the ones that create conditions. You know, when we have a newborn baby and we're looking at that baby, we don't say to that baby, I love you and I'm going to take care of you, but I need for you to do a few things for me first. We simply are in awe of the life that has been created. And what we as people can't seem to get through our thick skulls, especially as adults, is that's the way the Creator and the earth both look at us as their children in awe. And that many of these, you know, the way we look, Anku says, the way we look into the sky and see stars, many of these other interdimensional and off-planet energies that are more developed, more in tune, when they look at the earth right now, they see what look like stars. And they're intrigued. They're intrigued with what's going on with the earth right now. She's important because everything that the earth is going through and that we are going through as a species affects them in ways we don't believe. Some of them are a bit jealous because we hold the power of emotion. And we hold the DNA of the Creator in our very bodies. And there has been a little bit of backlash against that. And Anku said it's taken some time for all life to get on the same page and to realize that by supporting us, they support themselves. By supporting the Earth's transition, it moves through into their own realm. And that all can expand and all can experience more of who they are by being willing to promote and support the higher vibrational energies that we need in order to continue and step over this threshold that the 5D and the 6D dimensional, that is 5-dimensional, 6-dimensional energies that are pouring their energy onto the Earth's surface right now. Are essential to us. There's a great desire for these energies to work with us as light vessels in order that they can expedite this process, in order that perhaps we would not have to destroy ourselves in order to understand, as we would have done. We are all the same. The people share in so much of who we are, and they have a great deal invested in our success, in our surpassing ourselves. Anku said, I feel him saying, he's not sure what else to say to you to convince you of your place. He said, in this galaxy, but even more so in the universe. That it's that important that you understand so much of what has been given to you have been nothing but barriers and lies and limitations. And that it's simply like flipping a light switch and deciding for it. It is not complicated. He said it is so not complicated. But likewise, if we do not embrace the earth, she will know who her children are as she continues to make this shift. Magnetically, she's shifting. The poles are shifting. It's not so much about global warming as it is about the tilt. He said the tilt of the earth on her axis. And she is going to continue. I feel she is going to continue to expunge this energy, and she knows who is helping in that. And it isn't about her desire. Her desire is to embrace all of us as her children. But if we refuse her, we refuse her. And she's going through the greatest birthing process right now. And I feel within myself that the least we can do is be present in that and share accountability in that. And to begin to shift our perspective and realize there is so much more than us. These guys, the big guys, Janu, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Sobe, call them what you will. Anku says it really makes no difference. But at the end of the day, we are your brothers and sisters. It would be our desire to share in this beautiful earth with you, peacefully, pleasantly. He said, but if it is your choice, of course, it is your choice. They share our heart space, and their concern is immense. He said, there will be earth changes. But the more you are in tune with not only the divine, but with the mother, the more you will know in advance. Much like animals know when certain weather is moving in. He said they know. And you may see deer out at, broad daylight eating because a big storm is moving in. Snowstorm or ice or something that's going to keep them from being able to find their food. Squirrels. He said, if you watch animals, you'll know how the earth, how nature communicates with them naturally, instinctually, easily. He said, we communicate the same. But it is designed so that you will always know what your next move is. He said, with the shift in the poles, it affects all oceanic life, birds, he said really all animals, but with that magnetic change it has caused, whales, dolphins, birds to lose, and they're trying to follow the magnetic lines, and as these things have shifted, it sometimes causes them a sacrifice. But even that is to let us know that these things are happening. The earth is using animals, nature, to tell us what to anticipate. But if we don't listen, if we're not willing to feel it, he said, I don't know what else to do or to say to get you to see. Okay, so from that, I'm feeling it's important as each of you approach events or you approach certain circumstances, you might feel a little emotional overwhelm. You might feel certain things that aren't normal to you or your environment. If you've been chosen to feel these things, feel honored. And just ask that once you've decided whether they belong to you or not, and you've been accountable for your part in any of it, just take it and release it and give it back to the universe, because it doesn't belong to you and it cannot transmute if you insist on holding it that tightly. Our evolution depends on our ability to process correctly, on our ability to listen, to feel. And Anku said to speak the truth, to begin to speak from your heart instead of just logic or what the guy next door said. The guy next door. He said, begin to speak your truth. Honor who you are. Honor your part of the process. Stop discounting yourself. He said the Creator and Mother Earth alike know each of you by name. He said your memory may not be that good, or your attention to detail, but theirs is, and it's because you're important. So, embrace it. Embrace who you are. Embrace the energies that you feel. Ask how you can help transmute that from anger into peace, from sorrow into joy. And it might just simply be in handing it over. But ask the right questions. Don't take for granted that you are a part of the process. You have chosen to be here to be a part of the process. And it's time to be accountable in that. It's time to embrace the one. The oneness of who we are. I'm going to leave it there. If any of you have questions, if you might need or desire to set up sessions to help you in your own path of ascension, to help you through some of these energies that have presented themselves, many of these are genetic, and there is a way to release them. And then, once they're released, you at least can see what's truly yours versus your ancestors, versus the collective. And you can kind of sort it out a little easier. It's not as overwhelming. We just finished another batch of Ormus. It should be ready to ship within a couple of days. So if anybody needs a refill on that, or rods, or anything, just reach out to me, let me know. I do appreciate having you here with me. I pray that you'll all stay blessed. Love yourselves. Love your brother. Love your enemy. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.